I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Right. So, uh, before we begin the what we call it as public victory, any thoughts on the first three habits of self mastery, where we have begun with being very proactive? That means we are responsible for our own actions. We know what our vision is, and we also have a plan to go about it. And that has that brings us a kind of a self mastery is what we have spoken about. So we have moved from the stage of you to a kind of a self mastery where we are now talking about I, the aham. So we have come to the independent stage. Now from this, how do we travel to the path of interdependence, to the concept of the attitude of we, which we call it as public victory? And throughout this, we will be emphasizing how important it is to continue to remind us about the private victory, because unless private victory is in place, we will not be able to trade on public victory. Okay, the root of public victory is in private victory. Okay, the foundation of public victory is always in private victory. So we will see that. But any thoughts at this point in time before we start? Okay, not heard from anybody. So we are good to go. So let's embark on the story of bringing others into the picture. So far we have been talking about I, me, myself, how to move from dependence to independence. Let's bring others into the picture. Um, Not that things out there are very chaotic, confusing the moment you bring others. Uh, to some extent, it will be, because you are dealing with different personalities, different individualities, different entities. It might sound a little chaotic, but we will see how, with our private victory, we will be in a position to achieve the so-called public victory, which we call it as interdependence. Okay, let's begin with think win-win. And I am again reiterating, most of these habit names, the labels of these habit names are not nouns, they are verbs. That means they are very much doable, they are very much actionables. Okay, so these are not something abstract terms that it's good in theory or something like that, but people have demonstrated this all the time. The so-called effective people, the so-called successful people have always been demonstrating these in their actions. Hence, they are termed as verbs. Think win-win. Okay, which is habit 4. And habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Okay, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And 6, habit 6, which is synergize. The noun form of synergize is synergy. So we will bear the fruit of synergy with habit 4 and 5. Okay, how do we go about doing that is habit 5. What kind of a mindset we should have to get that is think win-win. Okay, so we call this 4, 5, 6 as root, route, and fruit. Okay, uh, you get the, I mean, some kind of a paradigm to understand this is 4 is the attitude, 4 is the mindset. With think win-win as the mindset, you will put the uh, route, that is the skill which you will be putting is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And with that in action, what you will get as a fruit is synergy. Okay, and that brings us to something called public victory, where we are interdependent, where we help as well as get helped by others. And we have truly enriching relationships and trust. Okay, now we can talk about trust confidently now that you have displayed trustworthiness in your private victory. With your private victory, you have displayed trustworthiness, and hence, in public victory, trust gets established and you will be able to bear the fruit of synergy. Okay, so let's begin. As I said, to be able to look at public victory, the starting point is private victory, mastery on the private victory. Okay, so because we are embarking on a completely new journey where a lot of other people like us will be there, what is the right attitude to begin in this space where so many people are there? Okay, so the right attitude in this space is, again, let's come to the change model: see, do, get. What is the paradigm I should have? What should I be doing? And what is the principle which, whether we like it or not, will not change? Because principle is at the center, and this will not change. And that will determine the consequences, that will determine the results, whether we like it or not. So, what is the paradigm I should hold to be able to go into the space of others? What should I be doing? And what is the principle which will not change? So, the kind of paradigm which we have to challenge is, I seek the benefit of others as well as my own. Now, you have to really be careful in looking at this, because what happens is, I seek the benefit of others as well as my own. These are not mere fancy words. How many of us always think of benefit of others as well as ensure your own benefit? How many times that happens in real life? We always seek our benefit first. Okay, and there is no good in that. I mean, there is nothing wrong about it. There is nothing wrong about seeking your good in a situation, but the effective relationships and effective outcomes will not come if you do not care for the benefit of others, if you do not care for the interest of others, because the society that which we are living in is truly interdependent and mutual. So in a mutual situation where 10 others are involved, how can I ensure only my interest? Okay, so far in the private victory, what we have learned is how to be responsible, how to have a vision of our own, and what kind of a planning is required. Okay, so with that private victory, are we not able to see the role of others in this entire scheme of things? Are we alone trading on this path? No. We are in a society where 10 others are there. Then how do I ensure benefit for others also, at the same time see my own interest? It is a very, very challenging thing, but it is not impossible. The good news is it's not impossible. So I get better results by cooperating interdependently. Look at the words. They have a heavy meaning. Cooperating interdependently. You are cooperating not with your selfish motive, but you are cooperating interdependently for a mutual benefit. Now that requires a different kind of a maturity, because everybody cooperates for their own well-being or their own self-interest. But are you cooperating interdependently to get a mutual benefit where everyone benefits? Now the situation gets very, very tricky when there are different individuals, 10 different individuals who do not agree on the same benefit. For one it is benefit, for others it is not benefit. And that's the kind of a tricky situation which we will be the moment we get into the space of others. And what should I be doing in the do part? Now the C part is the paradigm which I will be challenging is, I must always look for mutual benefit. Mutuality is the paradigm I should challenge. If at all I do not have this paradigm right now, I must challenge that existing paradigm to be able to see this, to be able to see this way, that everything is a mutual benefit. Unless everybody sees some benefit in it, what's in it for me? Everybody looks for what's in it for me. Unless you ensure everybody's needs are met, it is very difficult to be in a society which is interdependent. Okay, so what should I be doing to be able to get this kind of a thing? Is you must, at an individual level, balance courage and consideration in your seeking mutual benefit. That means courage and consideration. What is courage? What is courage according to Covey is courage is how you will assert yourself. Okay, how you will assert yourself. Not assertive is just not being adamant. uh, there is always a different understanding of words like assertiveness. Assertiveness doesn't mean being firm and aggressive. Okay, adamant, stubborn, that's not assertiveness. Assertiveness is standing for your right. That is courage. Will you be standing for your right? Is the courage. Now consideration is, will you also ensure the right of the other, or will you only struggle for your rights? And you struggle for your rights at the cost of rights of others, then it is not consideration at all. Okay, you are aggressive, and that is not courage. If you ensure only your rights at the cost of other person's rights, neither it is courage nor consideration. Hence, how will you balance both courage and consideration in such a way that you ensure your rights, at the same time ensure the rights of others, help ensure the rights of others, so that mutual benefits are realized. Okay, and in this terminology, how Covey uses this kind of a phenomenon is, can you look for win-win outcomes? I'm sure all of us at some point or the other, we keep using this jargon that it's a win-win situation. Win-win. That means we are talking about two parties involved in that. Win for one party, win for another party. But who are we? We are, suppose we are neither of those parties, we are a third party, and we will determine and judge other people, other two parties, whether it is a win-win or a win-lose or a lose-win for them. Who are we? It is the parties who are involved in it must feel the mutuality, that it is win for both of them, both the parties involved in it. Okay, so how do we ensure these win-win outcomes and not confuse win-win outcomes to some other outcomes, which is some kind of understanding and agreement under the table? Those are not win-win outcomes. Okay, so we got to be very, very clear on what is this true win-win really means for people. Okay, since we exactly know what is win for us, we are in a better position to understand the win for others also. That's the beauty of this being in society. We can easily feel what other person feels. We can easily understand what other person is coming from, but we make it so complex that we do not even know what is the win for the other person. We do not even know what is the frame of reference the other person is coming from. We make it so complex because of extreme selfishness. So Covey says, can you start with think win-win? He's not saying, please, in every situation, just go for win-win without any, homework. My mindset is not even for the win-win. My mindset is only for win-lose. In such a situation, thinking win-win becomes really a hypothetical or a abstract thing. Okay, and in some countries and some societies altogether, they do not have much experiences of win-win. You tell me in our country how many people have the too many experiences to talk about in win-win. Every time we have experience of either win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, all kind of paradigms except win-win. Very rarely, few instances are there where we truly experience win-win. You have to reflect on your own life so far. How many are your close ones, significant others in your life? How many of the times all of the family, all of the households, all of the people in our country experience win-win, where every benefit is realized by all the people involved? only one or two parties get the benefit, others are, they lost the game. And we hell bent on making that come true. Okay, so Avi says, why can't we start with think win-win? First, at least, can we show willingness for win-win? Leave alone the outcomes. Outcomes will come later. But can we start with think win-win? Okay, where we put the courage as well as consideration for the other person's rights as well. Okay, so that's the whole thing. And what is the principle which doesn't change irrespective of whether we do this or not? The principle which doesn't change is all long-term relationships require mutual benefit, whether we like it or not. Most of the societies will function, will trade, civilizations will survive and sustain only with long-term relationships which have mutual benefit. Else, we have so much of history to prove otherwise. Okay, so this principle will not change. The moment others are involved, it has to be mutual. Okay, so think win-win is talking about that kind of a willingness from you. Okay, so that kind of a willingness is the character. And will you seek win-win relationships in your personal and professional lives? Okay, and will you seek win-win agreements? And I was giving the example of our nation. Do we have win-win systems and processes? Like, let's look at IIT. How many of the times all the people or stakeholders of IIT system and processes experience win-win? Truly, whoever those two parties are, because there are two parties for a win-win. Whoever those two parties are, do they experience very effective relationships, personally, professionally, agreements, personally, professionally, in a win-win manner, and the systems and processes which are truly win-win? We have to really look at those dimensions of win-win, how much of experience we have truly with win-win. Maybe there are a lot of us who have not even experienced a single occasion of win-win. Okay, and that could also be attribute of several factors. So we call these as paradigms. Because if you have not had any experience of win-win, there could be a lot of homework which we have to do on the kind of a C or a paradigm we are carrying. Maybe we are carrying only the win-win mindset where everybody is good, everybody has a mutual benefit and we are good to go, so we are happy. Or you might have, in your experience, you might have experienced only win-lose kind of a experiences, win-lose kind of experiences, where you have been proctored and conditioned to think that you have to be the winner in arguments, in relationships, in agreements, in systems, in academics, in professional life, in personal life. You have been conditioned that you should be the winner. And for you to win, I have to make somehow others to lose. And we have been conditioned that way from our childhood, probably. That winning is all it takes. You have to be the winner. And that too, there is no scope for too many winners. That's how we have been conditioned, that winner will only be one. How can an entire community or society be the winner? So a lot of dichotomy is experienced. We are living in a society where 10 others are there, but you have been conditioned to only win individually, independently. How can your win be independent of all other systems and people? Your win cannot be your own win. There must be several systems and people and relationships which have been supporting you to make you winner. But how many times we realize that we somehow make sure that our selfish motive should be won, and hence I will make sure others lose. Unless others lose, I cannot win. Or a lose-win mentality. How many of the people who are not in this space are in this space? Lose-win. How many of the times we give up? How many of the times we give up because the other party is too big, giant to be able to consider, or I do not have courage. I will let go my rights, let the other person win. And that also we do not want. I have just showed. We do not want suffering saints out of you. Okay, do not get victimized. We do not want victims. We want actors. Okay, so lose win will, you are losing out on your courage. Only consideration is high for the other person's win. That is no good at all. So lose win mentality is just a suffering saint. And there are a lot of people who keep swaying from win lose to lose win to win lose. Okay, they keep swinging and swaying between these two paradigms. Okay, because it is really impossible to have win lose all the time. There must be situations like this, and there you are, that you have to give up. And in the only in the next agreement or next relationship or next argument or next system, I will make sure I will win and you lose. Okay, and lose. There are a lot of time. Uh, if I know that I'm not able to win and I'm losing, I'll make sure that you also don't win. I'll make sure you lose too. So these are the kind of paradigms between two stubborn people. Neither they win, nor they let the other person win. I want you to think of those characters. I want you to think of those relationships. I want you to think of those dialogues, arguments. I want you to think of those systems and processes where nobody is really winning, nobody is benefiting anyway. All are losers. Those are lose-lose situations. It's a stubborn system, very destructive endeavor. That is lose-lose. And there's also another paradigm called win. Uh, that's a different ball game altogether, where the presence of others or interdependent society is not realized by the person. They think the entire world is I, me, myself. Very narcissistic, very narcissistic. So really do not know that there is something called consideration also. All I know is my courage. All I know is ensuring my rights. I don't really care in the process whether you lose or win. I don't care. I have to win. As long as I win, I don't care what's happening with you. Or another paradigm called win-win or no deal. With a true win-win mentality, would you be walking away from a relationship or from a agreement or from a system where if there is no win-win, let's not get into it? Because I really care for win-win. I really care for win-win, and if win-win is not happening for various different reasons at the moment, I will not go for win-lose, nor I will go for lose-win. I will say no deal. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll have a handshake with you, because there is always a tomorrow in these relationships. Why we consider things as do or die? It is we who make the situations like do or die in relationships, in agreements, in systems and processes. We act as if do or die. Okay, but Covey says, can we not think of win-win to begin with? Let us not get into the agreements or systems with win-lose mentality or a lose-win mentality or a lose-lose mentality. Why not we have a win-win? If no win-win temporarily, can we not come back again? So this is the kind of a paradigm which he talks about. This is the kind of a mindset he talks about before he talks about in the habit 5 skill set. So mindset, which is right for the fruit of synergy, habit 6, is the think win-win mindset. Okay, then we'll come about habit 5, where we talk about skills. So win-lose conditioning is what I have been talking about. I'm sure this kind of win-lose conditioning has been there from our upbringing. I mean, no blame game here, but that's how our conditioning across all the humanity have been. Somehow competition has been instilled in us, where cooperation will also get you the same results. or better results rather. So where we can cooperate and get the better results, there also we end up competing and losing. Okay, so win-lose conditioning is so strong across the societies of the world that it just poisons our mindset in the wrong direction, in a very destructive direction. Yeah, why go so far? You have several businesses who have realized the the value of collaborations. Today you see even in academics, uh, businesses have long realized. So there are a lot of joint ventures, mergers, okay, and several alliances amongst the businesses, partnerships, alliances, mergers, joint ventures. Okay, all of these businesses have long realized that collaboration is the key. There is so much of value in collaborations because independently we cannot compete alone for long. Okay, it can give you short term wins, but it is not sustainable. So for a sustainable victory, you have to join the hands. Okay, businesses have realized, but now academics have also now come to realize that, thankfully, but they are still talking about it. Just talking about collaboration doesn't mean collaborations are happening. Okay, so there is a lot of private victory which has to be in place before we go and seek collaborations. Okay, so if private victory is in place, we can start with think win-win, where you care for your benefit and also equally care for the other person's benefit. Okay, so this kind of partnerships, collaborations, cooperation, these are good to talk, but how many of us come forward to do that? It just fizzles away. The effort is not there because true mindset doesn't come, and there is the skill set is also not there to be able to realize that kind of a synergy. But we keep saying team spirit, synergy, and all those words. Okay, those are not coincidences. Synergy, team spirit, team outcomes, they come, we do not have very too many experiences to share that kind of a synergistic outcome. We have, but we do not have in abundance. Okay, so uh, he says, Covey says that this think win-win itself is based on a mindset called abundance mentality. Why are we not looking for think win-win and we are only looking at win-lose? Is somewhere we are in a scarcity mentality. What if you win and I lose? So it becomes lose-win, no? So somewhere I will be lost. Okay, and that kind of conditioning has been so strong. Just see, for an example, why abundance mentality is not there and scarcity mentality is there in people widespread is right from the childhood. If you see, the child has to the child strikes a deal with parents. Parents say, do these chores, do that chores, study this way, get me grades this way. So that rewards, recognition, love, attention of the parents is given to the child. So child is in constant transaction with the parents to be able to exchange the value. If I at all I have to realize as a child the value of attention from the parents, love and care from the parents, I have to do my household chores, I have to study well, I have to get the good grades, then my parents will love me more. And so I realized that the true value is not in me as a child. The true value is outside of me, where I do all these get good grades, do my work on time, I'm disciplined, I'm doing all of these kind of things. Then only people reward me, then only people recognize me, then only people love me, then only my parents attend to me. Till then they don't like. And if siblings are there, then what kind of a competition goes on. We call it, as in psychology, we call it sibling rivalry. Rivalry for what? To get those scarce resources. Is love scarce? Is it scant with the parents, that parents cannot love a child if there are two kids in the home? So somewhere the mentality which we instill in the children is somehow they have to compete for the love, attention, reward, recognition from the parents. So the competition starts right from home. Okay, so that kind of a thing is instilled right in the upbringing, where competition is trumped at every stage. I have to prove myself that I'm a winner. Okay, so the scarcity mentality comes in there. Competition poisons the mind, and that we generally do not realize. Okay, love, care, attention is in abundance. Do we see that way? No. If you do this, then only I will love you. Then only I will care for you. So those kind of a thing makes the certain of the human resources so very appear to be very scant when they are not. Okay. So the child sees the value is not me myself, but the value is something outside, and I have to struggle for it. Okay, so this kind of a win-lose conditioning which we have been instilling in our kids, and what kind of teenagers, adults, citizens they grow out to be, is with scarcity mentality, where they will compete at the drop of a hat. And then we will, the moment they come to industry, we will tell them, hey, you got to be cooperating, you got to be a team player. We will evaluate you on team playing skills. How? We have been training them to compete and be number one, a winner. We have never taught them the values of cooperation, collaboration, trust, which is always mutual. We have never taught them, but only talk about them when they grow. We will talk about you got to be a good team player. How? And so these kind of contradictions are there, these kind of dichotomies are there. How do you think win-win will happen then? Very difficult. I hope I'm clear on habit 4 challenge. Think win-win. Uh, you know how we seek win-win relationships and opportunities, and work on win-win agreements. That's the challenge of think win-win. Am I clear, or is there any other way you want me to take this think win-win? You can always ask questions, or type it out in the chat, because in the last session, that is on next Thursday, we can also take up a lot of these discussions, because think win-win, for various different reasons, doesn't come automatically and naturally to people. And not just I'm talking of Indian people alone. uh, Everywhere, uh, you know winning is something which people are, the fetish for winning is always there. But thinking win-win, somewhere people think, if I'm thinking about other person's win, I'm soft, I'm somewhere weaker. Those kind of so culturally, so also these things are embedded and conditioned. So we have to challenge the paradigm of the wins. The wins have to be challenged. What is the true nature of a win? We have to spell out. What is the operational definition of a win? So unless we challenge those paradigms, truly win-win, we cannot realize as a society. Okay. So, but effective people, successful people have become leaders only because they always thought through win-win, where they displayed courage as well as consideration. They never let go their rights. They ensured their rights, but also equally ensured the other person's rights, or other nations' rights, or other communities' rights. And that is, significant, win, truly. So the challenge is to think win-win at least. If win-win doesn't come automatically, can we start at least thinking in that direction where everybody benefits? Okay, that's the mutuality. So now let's come to the fifth one. So we have just now covered root. Okay, that is the mindset. Mindset is think win-win. Now let's come to skill set. How do we go about this think win-win? You are telling me to think win-win all the time. where you win and you are also making the other person win. But how do we go about? One very simple skill which most of us lack, is communication. And fortunately or unfortunately, communication is been talked about so much, or communication is communicated so many times, but not in the way it needs to be. So communication is a skill set which Covey emphasizes with mindset as think win-win. And what is this skill set of communication is, can we communicate in such a manner that you seek first to understand, then only to be understood? Again, we are putting the other person in the first place so that we understand the other person first before we are understood. So just an extension of your mindset of think win-win, we are putting it in practice in our communication by seeking first to understand and then to be understood. Okay. So this entire skill set, habit 5, is about communication. And it always emphasizes what is a paradigm which I have to challenge in the communication space is I assume I don't fully understand, and hence I need to listen. If I listen first, then I will be better understood. That is a paradigm I must have to be able to go forth and put some right actions in place. But do I assume this? How many of us today assume that we don't fully understand? In fact, we are hell-bent on telling, I fully understand. How many of us will courageously say, I don't understand? But we expect others to understand us. And we claim that others don't understand us. Okay, so here we are always in a, again, narcissistic tendencies of, I know it all. I assume that I understand fully. I exactly understand where you are coming from. Is it really? Can we clarify? The moment we get into a discussion, we will know that a person has a complete different view. It's not this take which I was talking about. So when we assume that we fully understand, that's when we are ineffective. So Covey says, in every communication, in every professional, personal relationships, can we assume that we don't fully understand first? And that's something which is a paradigm of communication which we need to challenge. And then use empathic listening when appropriate, and listen without intent. I'm sure all of you might have felt we have to listen with intent. Why should we listen without intent? What does this mean when we say listen without intent? Is by not putting our intent in the communication, we are able to fully understand the other person's point of view. The moment we put our intent, the communication is blinded by that entire frame of reference. We are not open to other person's frame of reference the moment we put our intent. So hence, listening without intent, that means we are completely open and fully able to listen actively to the other person. And the intention is to understand that person and not to put my intent onto the another person. Hence, in this, what is a principle which will not change whether we like it or not is diagnosis always precedes prescription. Diagnosis always precedes prescription. Okay. Now, and understanding comes through listening. This is the principle whether we like it or not, irrespective of the society we live in or culture we live in. Okay. Diagnosis must always precede prescription. If at all we start prescribing before a description, diagnosis, what will happen? Let's say, doctor gives a prescription, let's say on phone, without even considering several useful information about the patient and fully diagnosing his or her condition. the doctor starts prescribing the medicine, what will happen? Without diagnosis, I'm prescribing. Because, I didn't really sit with you to understand what is the condition you are going through. Okay, I heard first few words because I'm an experienced doctor. I heard first few words and I understood the entire situation. Is it? And I end up giving you some kind of a medicine, and this can lead to a very serious or a fatal error. If the patient takes wrong medicine because you prescribed, I'm taking, and it can lead to fatalities. Okay, so in the same way, how you will be very careful, before starting to advise anything to anybody, without even understanding the preoccupations of the other person, the situation the person is in. But our advice, our views, our suggestions keep coming unsolicitedly. Nobody has asked and solicited our advice. But in every communication, whether consciously or unconsciously, we end up prescribing. Prescription is advising. Okay, so in most communications, personal, professional, otherwise, in all agreements, we end up coming from our intent, our frame of reference, our advice, our interpretations, our evaluations, our prescriptions, recommendations. Then, what is the situation calling for? Where is the diagnosis? Okay, so that is the principle which will not change. Hence, can we not, because this is the only thing which determines the results and consequences, why are we not looking at the paradigm that way, and let's do that way so that we adhere to diagnosis to precede prescription? And I mean, to be, why we don't do that is there are so many barriers to communication. Somewhere we are giving quick conclusions, we are advising, okay, or we are even asking them to speak only to only to get my turn to talk. Okay, so throughout that, I'm kind of rehearsing what to say. I'm rehearsing my dialogue, my script, and whatever you spoke, I was not even paying attention to it. Okay, so continuous rehearsal of your own intent, your own points, your own recommendations, clouds are diagnosis. Okay, and without diagnosis, you know how the outcomes will be. Okay, so we hastily give conclusions, advising before the person is finished even talking. Okay, yeah, I understood. For everything, yeah, everything okay. So there are so many communication barriers, language barriers, culture barriers. There are so many barriers in communication. Medium, okay, at the person level, there are so many barriers. At the medium level, there are so many barriers. Let's say a doctor is diagnosing on the phone, very difficult, no, than a face to face. So barriers to communication can come from any angle. Either it could be person specific or situation specific, medium specific, it can be anything. But there are so many problems in communication. But we are so short of our prescriptions that we believe that we are right. Okay, so are we diagnosing enough? Are we diagnosing enough before starting to prescribe? So the principle is diagnose before you prescribe. Yeah, I think I was just trying to say how this attitude is habit 4, root is habit 4, route, that is skill set, is habit 5, and this skill which is there on the top is habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And you will be able to seek first to understand, then to be understood only when you have this attitude called habit 4. That is, you are always thinking win-win. Hence, you are trying to understand the other person first, then to be understood. So that's the skill set. And fruit is habit 6, which we will discuss. So summary of habit 5, you can see there are several barriers to communication. We end up giving a lot of advice, interpretation, probing. We are passively listening. We passively listen to others. or probably hear others than calling it as listening. We end up hearing others. We don't listen to others. Okay, and I would also like to emphasize here is somewhere our conditioning and upbringing is also one of the core thing here. We spend so many years of formal education on reading, writing, speaking, but we don't really get any feedback on how well we are listening to others. Okay, people are giving us left, right, and center feedback, evaluation, appraisals on how well we speak. Like, for example, so many workshops on public speaking, on reading comprehension. I'm checked on. Entire schooling and colleges goes in improving communication in what space? Communication in reading, writing, speaking. But how about listening? Listening is the foundation of any communication. But all the time our mind is busy producing dialogues and conversation for what should I say next. I am just not paying attention to what the other person is saying. And what is empathic listening here? I, See, that's the reason in this kind of a medium, no, I, even if I am missing on something, there is no scope from the audience to check, what am I missing here. The attitude and skill of empathy. Here, empathic listening. If you are looking at this, the skill here, habit 5, is empathic listening, not just simply passively listening, but empathic listening. Uh, Empathy is different from sympathy, pity, and all of that. I'm sure all of you know that. Okay, empathy is nothing but putting yourself in another person's shoes. How often do we do that in the space of communication? Do we put ourselves in the other person's shoes when the other person is speaking? No, we are quick to conclude, quick to advise, quick to recommend, quick to stop them and say, okay, I got the picture, you don't have to further say anything, kind of thing. So empathic listening is coming from the other person's frame of reference and not from yours. Okay, and most of the people who are good in especially interpretation and evaluation feel that they're superior. Please do not analyze another person's communication then and there. They're not asking you to analyze and interpret for them. They're only sharing certain ideas with you and sounding off with you. That doesn't mean that you have to do another PhD on what they said. So, it's very important that interpretation and evaluation, which are higher order skills according to us, has to be used in relationships and agreements and systems when it is not required. So, empathic listening has to be there, trying to understand the other person's frame of mind than you interpreting or evaluating its worth. Evaluation is nothing but judgment, and nobody wants to be judged. Okay, and interpretation is also interpretation from my motive and my intent. So where are those higher order skills coming for use in communication space? Whenever you are with others, the situation is very, very different. So we cannot keep thrusting ourselves onto others. Our motive, our intention, our skill set, our narcissism, these are very, very difficult. So empathic listening, the skill of empathy, okay, is the core of active listening, not passive listening, and not even hearing. Okay, I'm sure in Tamil and other kind of languages, there are so many pearls of wisdom given in their Tirukkural and other kind of things, where or normal or when you were 5 year old, your mother might have told, God has given you 2 ears and one mouth. Those kind of things might have come handy, but we have to reinforce that right now, because our formal education has never emphasized much on listening. We have been rated only on reading, writing, and speaking. other than our value system of our parents, where they told God has given you 2 ears, one mouth, so speak less, listen more. Other than those pearls of wisdom from the environment, we have not got any uh, you know uh, great training or appreciation for listening. We never get appreciation. Hey, he listens very well. We never say he speaks very well. That we will say he's a good public speaker. His talks are very motivating. Okay, so somewhere skill of empathy has to be inculcated, and that's a leadership quality. That's a truly leadership quality. Most of the leaders are very good listeners and very good empathic listeners. So the habit of uh, the habit five, the challenge is how to seek first to understand, then to be understood. Okay, so commit to be a better listener and communicator, and think and understand before responding, because always diagnosis precedes prescription. So now we have seen the route. Now let's come to fruit. Are we doing fine or are we going fast? I have to, maybe I'll take your feedback once I take you through habit six. So, habit six is the fruit. Okay. Now that we have talked about root and route, the fruit, what is the fruit? Fruit is the synergy. And this habit, six, always deals with the teamwork and how you will open up yourself emotionally to the work of other people, and how you will be much more emotionally charged whenever you are with others, and how you can bring together your other private victory and habit 4 and 5 to help you get this fruit. Okay, and as a team, whenever you are working with others, any others means it can be just another, just one another person also is another. Okay, so what kind of ways you will come up with the new alternatives, new possibilities, new solutions together, that none of your either of your thinking has not could not come about with. Okay, when either of you could not come about certain solutions, but together you are able to get to certain newer alternatives. Okay, and that typically we call it as synergy. I'm sure in so many different times we have heard this word synergy. Okay, so what is synergy, and how many times we have experienced synergistic outcomes? Again, just like win-win, we do not have too many examples and too many instances in our life to talk about. Every now and then I'm experiencing synergistic outcomes, because we work in groups, we don't work in teams. Now how do we differentiate groups and teams? Do we have that kind of a shared understanding of the vision or the goal, that and we put our private victories in a very mature manner, and we end up thinking win-win? We in the team, we are team players, we are not individuals striving for individual goal attainment. The rewards recognition are also for the entire team, because the outcomes are extraordinary and synergistic. But how many of us have that kind of synergistic outcomes every now and then to talk about? Because synergy comes with so much of struggles, because the team members are different, team members are diverse, their personalities, their ideas, their experience, their temperament, their frames of reference is always different. You see, industry they always put cross functional teams and other diverse teams to come and work on a project, expecting some extraordinary outcomes. Why? Because diverse individuals can think in different ways and get some new alternatives and innovative solutions. But just because you have put cross functional teams together, don't assume that innovative solutions will come just like that. They go through what Tuckman calls it as, the stages of group development. They storm before they come to norms and before they perform and adjourn. So they go through several struggles. They don't see eye to eye. Who? Team members. They fight. They are team in the name only. Because the organization assigned me as part of this team, I'm there as a team member. More like a designation than the real team spirit. Hence, synergistic outcomes are very difficult to come because I lack think win win. I only think win. Because I speak so that I am understood, not to understand other team members. So it becomes very, very difficult to be able to get the synergistic outcomes, so to speak about. Okay. And that is the reality of interdependence. Okay. So here we always try to be independent in an interdependent society. The craziness, the craze of independence is always there. Even in an interdependent condition like teams, we always strive to look for independence. So if you see the paradigm which we are talking about, which we have to challenge, is together we can create a better way or a higher way. That's the paradigm I have to really imbibe and start seeing that way. But do I see that way? And that's the reason it's a challenge for the paradigm. Okay, because if you see, the principle which doesn't change, the principle which doesn't change whether we like it or not is whole is greater than sum of its parts. In German Gestalt psychology, they say this: whole is greater than sum of its parts, and we know it. Each of our team member, what we cannot produce alone, we are able to produce new alternatives together. So that's why we always say two heads are better than one. But what if two heads are better than one is just a saying, because those two heads are really not working together. There are two heads, but the two heads are working independently. Then they are a team in the name only. But we say two heads are better than one with an assumption that two heads are working together. Okay, so no single person in the group is smarter than the whole group collectively. And we know this. We know this through nature. We know this in industry where they are putting diverse teams together, because no one in the group is definitely smarter than anybody else collectively. Okay, so uh, uh, how do we get this, the meaning of synergy in its true sense, where whole is greater than sum of its parts? Okay, so because everywhere selfishness, everywhere independence, that trumps, not interdependence. Reality is interdependence, but want and desire is independence. Okay, so even in jobs today, if you really see, a lot of jobs are revolving around individual superstars. You know, individual achievements are portrayed. In certain societies, only individuals thrive. Is it? They are supposed to be societies, no? So, high performing, stars, they take a lot of time to, shed their superstar status. Individually, you could be, a pista. You could be a great guy. But collectively, why do we fail? So, two star performers in the same team can create a havoc for the project. No two doctors agree on the same prescription. Because egos come in, they will say, this works that way, this. So even in IIT, there are, everybody is a worth their salt. So the egos are so very big, larger than life, that we see that our solution, our alternative, our way of thinking is better. But only when we look at other person's solutions, or collectively what we could not think independently and what we are able to produce collectively, is something which we are not even aware of, that we all could produce this. And that's synergy. Positive energy of the group, of the team, is synergy. And that doesn't happen on a daily basis, because it requires certain conditions to be met. And those conditions to be met are very difficult, because I have to shed my ego for it. So what should I start doing then? How do I start valuing and celebrating differences? How do I start practicing creative cooperation? Okay, because if I start cooperating, you might consider me as less mortal. You might consider me as soft spot. You might think that I am not very confident. So I'm always bothered about how you will evaluate me, which is stopping me from cooperating for a higher purpose. And valuing and celebrating differences. This is so difficult. This is so difficult. You disagree with me, next moment, I'm already angry with you. That you don't understand, what is my frame of reference. Every difference which comes on your way, it is seen as something to attack on. So how do you think innovation and other things will happen? How do you think transformed relationships and mature relationships will work when every difference of opinion is attacked and homogeneity is entertained, sameness? Okay, so what synergy is and what synergy is not. We have, I mean, so many examples from the nature, as we were talking about. Two planks tied together are stronger than either alone. Is it? Is it? Why don't we test this and see? Why do you think geese are flying in a V formation? Why do you think orchestrating orchestra in music is so very great? Do those outcomes come just like that? Or there are some preconditions which are there? Classroom discussions. Why do we emphasize so much on classroom discussions? Because we really do not know how the ideas are discussed, and what becomes a catalyst for something which is a new innovation. So can we have synergy without having arrived at something which is a third alternative? Bobby calls this as a third alternative. Synergy is the third alternative, which is neither my point, my idea, nor your alternative, your solution, nor your way. Not my way, nor your way, but something which is a third alternative, which neither of us could independently think, but could come about only through collective effort. So, how do we work on these kind of problems in reality, in our public life, in our society? Whatever problems we go through, how do we come with a synergistic outcomes? Because each of these problems are felt by all of us. Okay, whether it is power, energy, water, health, you name the problem, we need collective solutions where everybody has a mutual benefit. And those are third alternatives, because my experience alone doesn't suffice to give a solution to other people, and their solutions will not apply to mine, because my condition is also something which is unique. So what is it that we can do so that we can come with a third alternative, which is neither your way nor my way, but a third alternative way? So he says, just like 4, 5, 6 habits, check willingness, solutions better than either. Which are those solutions which are better than what you sounded off and what I sounded off? Which are those solutions? Can we discuss? Let's reflect on the viewpoints. Okay. And this is your habit 5. Can we restate each point of view? That is, your habit 5 is communication. You are listening to the other person's solution in a very keen manner, so that you get different viewpoints also to share. So restate each point of view. Do not think you understood it the moment the person said or heard. Okay, restate and reconfirm what the person's point of view is, validate, clarify. We don't do that because we want to sound very expert. You said it and I got it. We don't leave any scope for clarifications, explanations. Okay, so please restate each point of view to the other's satisfaction before making your own. And that these two things will help create those third alternatives. Okay, that solutions which are better than either. Okay, so how will you refine and propose new ideas and go back into the loop until you arrive at a third alternative, which we collectively got it and not through any one person's effort. Okay, and here he says for these things to happen, how will you value the differences? As I told, this is very, very difficult. Every difference within the same household, family, within close friends, close relationships, every difference is frowned upon. At the most you end up tolerating those differences. There is no other choice for me because you happen to be my family. Hence, there is nothing I can do. I end up tolerating you for your weird ideas. Or I have come to such a stage that I could even accept you with your weird ideas and differences. I call that weird because I don't really make sense of your ideas, nor I see any value in what you're saying. So, but I am with you. So, what should I do? I better accept you, if not tolerate, because I started tolerating and you started fighting with me on that. Hence, I started accepting you. Okay, so it's not putting up with someone's differences no longer because I have come to a different stage with you. So, to consent someone's differences, to regard them as proper, suitable, or normal. Okay, you have a different view. I accept, but I don't agree. I don't see it as worthwhile. Okay, so can I start valuing it? Can I see your viewpoint as something which is really worthwhile? Do I see some value and worth in it? That's where I'll start valuing the difference of opinion, ideas, not just tolerate, not just accept, but I'm really seeing your viewpoints as something which is valuable and worthwhile. And Covey says third alternatives doesn't come only by tolerating, accepting, or valuing. Third alternatives keep coming, synergistic outcomes keeps coming only when you celebrate differences. Now, these are not, again, I'm saying these are not just mere fancy words. Uh, for you to celebrate another person's uh, completely different personality, completely different ways of thinking, you got to have very strong private victory in place, as well as habit 4 and 5. Only then this habit 6 of synergistic outcome can come, because to be able to celebrate the differences and get the synergistic outcome, very difficult. My private victory as well as habit 4 and 5 has to be there. You see diversity in just age and gender only creates so many problems. Gender diversity is always talked about, joked about, so many Santa Banta jokes on all kind of diversity. Religious diversity, ethnicity, ethnic differences, skin color, language. And now we started to say no, not just Black Lives Matter, every life matter or every human life matters. Uh, there also people will say you don't understand what we have gone through, so please endorse this. Because certain groups are suppressed, certain differences are not tolerated at all, leave alone accepted, valued, and celebrated. They're not even tolerated. The sight of you is creating problem. We cannot tolerate you. Please go back. We don't want to work with you. So when such are the differences, where do you think synergistic outcomes comes? We are not able to work on the differences. And within domestic within homogeneous things also, there are so many differences which we are unable to work on. Okay, so people have only experiences of tolerating and accepting. They have to move to valuing, then they have to move to celebrating to be able to get the synergistic outcomes and talk about it very often. Since we do not have much of the synergistic outcomes, we really cannot talk. So, how do we get those third alternatives? Have a change of heart, feel new energy and excitement, whatever we have talked about. Okay, that is, this take willingness, reflect viewpoints, and create new ideas. Okay, so and Covey always wants, of compromises. Please do not confuse compromise with the synergistic outcomes. Please do not confuse compromise with win-win. Please do not confuse compromise with win-win or no deal or compromise. Compromise is a low form of win-win. Okay, so generally, what arithmetic teaches is 1 + 1 is 2. But in positive synergy, it can be more. It can be 3, 4, or more, maybe 11. Okay, so how to produce those positive energy, which we call it as synergy, with habit 4 and 5, then just a 1 + 1 is 2. It's just summing up the individual efforts, which is definitely not greater than the sum. Okay, so two individuals cannot synergize. Definitely, two individuals cannot synergize if they have a win-lose or a lose-win or a lose-lose mindset. Because we are talking of synergy, somewhere they have to shed that win-lose, lose-win, or lose-lose mindset. So empathy is required, deep understanding is required, celebrating the differences are required to be able to get that synergy. Else, we will end up having some kind of a compromise and confuse it with true win-win or synergy. And in compromise, as in Covey's words, compromise means that 1 + 1 is 1/2. Not even arithmetic 2. No, not even the positive synergy which we were talking about, 11, 3, 4, it can be anything because it is positive synergy. But here, both give and take, both have some kind of a, something which is lingering in their mind that, there is a gain, but there is also something which I lost. So it doesn't give me that kind of a effectiveness feeling when I get into a negotiation next with you. That means I'm preparing myself not for win-win. I'm not thinking win-win. I'm again thinking in terms of gaining little and losing little with you. Because with you, I have always been either win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, or at the most compromise. So I could never come with win-win. So this kind of a give and take, the take part of it is still lingering in my mind. The communication is not defensive, protective, angry, manipulative. It is honest, genuine, respectful, but it isn't creative or synergistic. In compromise, you will see some amount of genuineness, some amount of honesty, because the person is at least willing to listen to what's your proposition. Okay, but that is not creative one. That is not synergistic one, because it is only producing 1/2. But in synergy, 1 + 1 can be anything which you turn out to be. Your group or your team, your mindset can turn out to be. Hence, compromise is a low form of win-win. Okay? So, in our kind of a society, in our kind of a culture, we have several compromises. And we think these compromises itself are real win-win because we don't have much of experience to talk about win-win. Okay, there are, but rare. And hence we confuse the compromise as true win-win. We portray compromise as win-win and feel happy about it. At least this much we got it. We are that way very contented with whatever we have. We don't look for innovative new ideas, third alternative. Those things require a lot of ego shedding and paradigm shifts, which I'm not ready for. So at least if I can talk genuinely, respectfully, and listen to you, I'm able to get some kind of a compromise situation. It is neither your solution nor my solution, but some workable solution. So they say no in Hindi, कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना पड़ता है types. But that khona is something which I really don't like. But I'm still settling for a compromise. So compromise, please do not get confused with the true form of win-win and synergy. So habit six summary is we spoke about synergy, we spoke about blocks to synergy with several of our tolerating and accepting differences but not valuing and celebrating them. So we spoke about valuing differences, what kind of a ground rules we must have for synergy, okay, what kind of a compromise we get into and think it is a synergy or a win-win, and how do we get about third alternative. So the challenge of habit six is take personal responsibility for being a great team player and for adding value. Be more tolerant of others. Be aware of how others can create better outcomes. So the beginning of paradigm shift is, can we start, you know, tolerating and respecting the other person for what they are, than looking at them from our own lens. Okay, so habit six challenges, how do we come with synergistic outcomes? So I think that brings us to the end of the public victory. So we spoke about route, and fruit. Route being think win-win, route being the skill of very empathic listening, and fruit, you bearing the habit six fruit as synergy. So that brings us to the public victory, where we truly appreciate the interdependency which all of us are in. Okay, we don't let independence come in the way of better synergistic outcomes. We leave behind our independence so that we can truly enjoy the interdependence and synergize. Okay, so but do remember, I'm reiterating, the public victory of this can come with strong self mastery in place. That means you are proactive, you have a vision which is very clear, and you have a plan to achieve that, and you take full responsibility for your actions. At the drop of a hat, if you are biased, prejudiced, discriminating, not seeing your role in the entire thing, but blaming others and very outward focus, there is no private victory at all. And that doesn't help you in public victory a bit. Okay, so this is the story of how we can keep moving and trading slowly, gradually, from dependence to independence to interdependence. So that brings us to the six habits which these are all six habits are not exclusive in nature. They're all, they are overlapping and having interdependency amongst themselves. I hope you noticed that. So those are the things which we are looking at. And in our next session, we can take up how do we sustain all of this and wrap up so that we continue to live these effective mantras than just talking about it. Okay, so that brings us to the close of this talk. Now I'm open to questions, comments, feedback, anything. Are you there, or have I put you to sleep? Any questions, any thoughts, any agreements, any disagreements, good, bad, ugly, anything?
Good evening, ma'am. Akansha here.
Yes, sir.
I had put my question on the chat that if we expand quadrant 2, could that increase the chance of win-win? Any thoughts on that?
If
We
we
spoke about
increase
quadrant
the,
2.
yeah, quadrant 2 is habit 2 or 3. I'm quizzing you now.
Oh my God. I think habit
Habit
3.
3. Habit 3.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, so if you put the spend more time in quadrant 2, which is planning and preparation, definitely it can help you in your public victory. Because for public victory to happen, the key thing, precondition is your strong self mastery, and self mastery is in your quadrant 2. The effective quadrant is Q2. The more you spend time in Q2 preparing and planning, better your private victory will be, better your mastery over self will be. And that definitely helps you to bring forth your key relationships, the necessary character, necessary systems and processes where synergistic outcomes are required. So definitely, that's what I said. The precondition for public victory is it lies in your self mastery, which is private victory. And quadrant 2 is much more specific because that's where your entire planning and preparation is resting in.
Right, right. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Actually, these are very, very tricky things. Think win-win. Uh, we can start think win-win, but how many things are barriers to our thinking comes? So many barriers are there before we start thinking win-win. I can, people will say, I can always think win-win. What is there in it? But with what will happen with only my thinking? The other person also should think. No, this kind of argument starts. Yes or no? I am all good. It is others who are not good. It is others who don't understand. Hence, we are again and again telling, can you take up responsibility for your actions instead of attributing things to others, blaming system, blaming processes, blaming relationships. What can I do? Thank you, Raju. Anybody else? I mean, these things will take time. You have to reflect on various situations all of us have gone through. In various key relationships of our life, how we have been, uh, trading in various different organizations you have worked, how the systems and processes you have managed. Was it, more responsibly or otherwise? How we have got or not got certain public victories when we needed them very badly. It gives us a scope for reflecting on not only our character but also key relationships, key processes, key systems, key agreements, key projects. Just we all we need to do is just little reflection, and things starts connecting beautifully. And not that you always have to start with private victory. You can start with public victory, but you will end up finding the need to be having private victory anyway. Okay, so starting point need not be with habit 1 only. You have been by nature in the public sphere with so many different people all the time. uh, you have probably started off with public victory, but all along that path you will realize that there is a lot of a thing which your role is in the entire team. Okay, you are a key part in the whole team also. So some of its parts. So whatever I contribute is also counted. And what if I get into social loafing? Social loafing is like shirking the responsibility. Anyway, team will do. If I don't do it for one day, what will happen? They will take care. So somewhere we are not honest about our efforts. Somewhere we are not honest about our input. Anyway, they will take care. So many assumptions, and we'll also justify all the time I have been contributing. Let other team members contribute this time. I mean, is it a ego battle or what is it? So we keep justifying our actions also, defense mechanisms. First of all, we social loaf, preloading, and ready to take credit without putting any effort. On top of it, when someone points out, we'll end up justifying. So there are a lot of things, even if you start with public victory for whatever reasons, it will get pointed to private victory anyway. So that's the beauty of we being in interdependent society. Each person is important, their unique contributions, and whole will always be greater than some of its parts. But those parts are equally important so that you nurture them, take care of them, so that the whole is also something which is very purposeful and meaningful. Okay, is it looking too much gyan? Is it sounding too much information, not able to decipher what it is? It's all going roundabout, or is it making sense? Say something, and then we can wind up and conclude it in the next session. Fine, thank you. Yeah, a lot to reflect. Yes, yes. But there are different spheres of life, and we must be, swaying from, win, lose, lose, win, lose, win, lose, lose. Very ineffective ways of working is there in certain spheres of life anytime for all of us. So to be truly effective, we have to have win-win outcomes, synergistic outcomes, and that's what we always look for. When why that thing doesn't happen, and all others are just a reflection of you. If you can think that way, then other person is also capable of thinking the same way. Then just gets into dead end. So that's all. I think no questions, no comments for me, no challenging things. The challenges will come if you start thinking, how it applies in that situation, how it apply. So there will be so many tricky things, and we will be able to find some solutions there. Okay. So thank you so much. Let's meet up next week to take the last habit. What is it that we need to continue and sustain, so that whatever we spoke about, certain of the effective principles, how do we sustain that and continue to uphold them in the right manner? We will see that and take active discussion at that time. And that I think next week Thursday, I cannot see any of you being silent. uh, I'm sure there are a lot of things, to discuss, question, confront, challenge. Uh, we got to do that. Okay. So next session, we will have the seventh habit, and just and wrap up. I will quickly conclude the whole thing, and then open to only discussion. And I cannot not have questions. Okay. So with that promise. Thank you so much. Happy evening. Sundari, can I log off?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Happy evening to
Thank
you
you.
too.
Thank you.